We're not here to talk about that.
Nah. All right.
All right.
Let's jump into this. Hello and welcome to the fourth week of Mouse Madness. I'm your host Nicholas Heaney, aka Irish Husky. I'm joined here today by my two good friends. Reintroduce yourselves, guys.
I'm Wesley Hunt, alias Dr. W on various media platforms.
I am Carrick Namnit, alias Raccoon Bro, and I'm also here.
Yes, you are, and I'm glad to have you. All right. So, last week was probably the most interesting week we've seen in terms of voting. There were no unanimous decisions, quite a few close calls, nearly had a tiebreaker. And I had the feeling going into this week it wasn't going to be quite as interesting, and I ended up being proven right, but to what extent, that's left to be determined. So let's give a quick reminder of what this week's matchups were. Our first matchup, we had Frozen versus Sword in the Stone. We also had Cinderella versus Dinosaur. And finally, Winnie the Pooh 2011 versus The Fox and the Hound.
I am very curious about this one.
Interesting matchups this week.
Yeah.
Started, I ended up watching 3 movies in advance for preparation for this week, which is not normal for me because I usually only watch films like once a week because I end up getting preoccupied with other things. But I ended up watching 3 specifically so I could have things to talk about.
Cool. Well, glad to see you're committed.
That was Sword in the Stone, Dinosaur, and Winnie the Pooh, because I had never seen any of those movies,
Okay.
with the exception of Sword in the Stone, which I had seen as a kid, but I completely forgot all about it.
All right, so one in each bracket. Nice spread. So, our first matchup, Frozen versus The Sword in the Stone. Now you had mentioned to me before, Wesley, that you were actually going with Sword in the Stone on this one.
I'm like one of the fans of this movie. It was my grandma's favorite Disney movie. It was something I watched quite a bit as a kid. I kind of like the songs. I like Merlin and Archimedes. I think it's one of the funnier Disney movies. I can see why people don't like it. It's a bit dry and a bit less adventurous than the rest of Disney's affair. But in terms of what it is as a laid-back comedy, I can kind of appreciate it.
So, like I said before, Sword in the Stone is one of the movies that I watched in advance for this. I showed clips of it to me and my class, or when I was in 4th grade. We were studying medieval stuff, including how the knighting system worked and barretts and all that, and how to be a squire. So we watched clips from the movie to like get an idea of that, such as like in the scenes where he's getting yelled at by his superior and saying like that's 4 demerits, and like they taught us what demerits are and stuff like that. So for the most part, I was going into this one completely blind because like that had been so long ago, and I'm a little torn on this one. I'm not gonna lie, because there are some things that, like Wes said, are genuinely enjoyable about this. Like Merlin and Archimedes, those I really like those two as characters. They're very entertaining, and the music, especially the instrumental stuff, like when he's doing the spells, such as the scene where he's washing the dishes. Like,
Oh yeah, that's so catchy.
there are so many like bopping tunes in this movie. I freaking love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat as you, Carrick. A little torn on this one because I can see why people would like this one. There is a lot of comedy here, especially with Merlin and Archimedes. The more I think about it, the more I feel like that's pretty much all this movie has to offer, at least on my viewing. As far as the actual story is going, it feels really disjointed and disconnected.
Yeah, one of my biggest problems with this movie is that the whole journey with Arthur is about him, being educated by Merlin and learning benefits of brain over brawn, and I like that. That's good, but they don't really do a very good job of tying it into him becoming king. Like, oh, you know how to swim as a fish. You are king of England. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Like,
that's my biggest problem. There's just no real connection between what Arthur's learning and when he becomes king. If anything, the fact that he's seems to be rejecting Merlin's studies by becoming a squire anyway is what leads him to the sword to begin with.
yeah, it's a little hard to understand what they were going for
Like
there.
like what I don't understand is the sword is mentioned in the prologue and doesn't even make an appearance or even another mention until the last 5 minutes.
And then the crazy thing is, after he does pull the sword out and becomes king, and Merlin like comes back from the 20th century, and and they tell a pretty funny joke there, like,
Yeah.
20th century, who needs it? Nothing but noise.
Great movie out of you.
Yeah. And so they ended the movie there. I was like, well, wait a minute, the story was just getting started. Why are you ending the movie now? This is the interesting part. I want to see him like form the round table and all that. Like this is what the movie should have been.
Yeah, I feel like there could have been grounds for a sequel because this is another one that's based on a series. It's Once and Future King by T.H. White, and it would be sort of a coming of age tale for Arthur, at least in the book.
Yeah. I'll say this for Arthur. Whoever voices him really managed to nail down that impression of a young boy who is clearly on the onset of puberty.
Quiet. Well, yes.
Dude, his voice is so inconsistent throughout the entire movie, and I was like so confused. Like, throughout multiple times, I thought to myself, did he have like 3 different voice actors? Like, what is going on? There were some points where like they put some sort of weird electronic filter over him, and he just sounded like a robot for no
You
reason.
see, your voice does crack during puberty. I know.
Why did they put a filter over him?
I don't.
Well, you have to
I
change.
do not. I don't understand, but I mean,
There
at
are also a
the,
lot-
at the very least, it does give that kind of authenticity to it.
I guess. There are also a bunch of scenes in this movie that really bother me, like just like purely from like why would they include that? This is so upsetting. Like the scene where he transforms back into a human after like the girl squirrel is like in love with him, but then
Although
like
there's a great meme though involving the screaming squirrel.
oh what meme?
When Merlin changes back and the squirrel screams, that's
Oh yeah,
material.
that no when Arthur changes back into a boy, like the girl squirrel is like really sad and crying, and like they never address that or like ever again. It's like
They hold on that shot of her just crying for so long too.
come on, like pull some punches, Disney. What the heck?
That
Yeah.
was.
I did really like the Madame Mim fight scene.
Oh yeah, Madame Mim, she's so
I
funny.
love
Like, I loved the resolution where Merlin turns into bacteria and just gets her sick.
yeah, because like I guess bacteria isn't really considered an animal, though, is it?
It's its own kingdom.
Oh yeah, he cheated by turning into a dragon, so he decided to cheat right back. That was really really good.
Yeah. Yeah, but Merlin also emphasized the defense over offense strategy with the crab and the goat and the ones that could hold their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, and part where he turned into a seal and like just fell on top of her. Very, very creative
Like when
visuals there.
when she turned into an elephant and then he turned into a mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice little touches with the comedy. I can see why it might have its fans, but for me, just the fact that the story doesn't seem to really amount to anything, the fact that it just kind of stops instead of ending, that is kind of a deal breaker for me. It's not the worst one I've seen, but I probably wouldn't go back to it.
This was the last film to be completed within Walt's lifetime. He did oversee Jungle Book, but this was the last one he got to see released.
Aw. And yeah, it's sad to think about, but what are you gonna do? Because at least this film did give us one very classic meme face of when Arthur finds out that Merlin is a wizard, and he's just got like this look of on his eyes, like I can see forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that was the 11 seed. Its competitor, the 6 seed, Frozen.
Interesting, this is a 6 seed because this was the highest grossing one of them all. The only one that beat it is the sequel.
Yeah, it'll do that. I think the only other one to break $1 billion was Zootopia.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was the Juggernaut. I kind of was not a fan of it when it first came out. They had all the merch, all the craziness, and,
it was,
and they overplayed what I thought was easily the worst song in the movie.
Yeah, it was definitely inescapable. Fun fact: first time I saw this was when it was in theaters, January 2014. All the schools in my area were closed because of the polar vortex.
Same.
So there was basically no better time to watch it.
Yeah, and I went to MagFest that year also, and we were like, gosh dang it, Elsa, stop making it snow.
Oh god. Oh my god, the end of my senior year, in the middle of May in Chicago, my physics class was going to go to Six Flags, Great America. And it started snowing while we were waiting for the buses to come.
Aw.
Well, you're at the lake. Well, you're near the lake, so...
Yeah. I mean, it managed to stop in time, but still, the middle of May. I don't care if we are getting lake effect, it should not be that cold.
This is inexcusable.
Like, damn it, Elsa, you've had your run. Just let it go.
Right, but as of this, my opinion over the years has kind of softened. I've grown to like Olaf, I've grown to like Anna. Elsa, not so much. She seems a bit more like a plot device than anything.
Here's the thing. I think I am of opposite opinion with you, Wes. Like, when it first came out, I really, really, really liked it. Like, everything about it. But every time I rewatch it, my opinion starts to get more and more lukewarm.
Right.
Yeah,
I will say this, though. I did like Olaf's Frozen Adventure. I didn't see Coco in theaters, so I saw the short in isolation. I thought Frozen Adventure was kind of cute.
That's cute.
How fitting that you watch it in isolation, since that's a big theme of this movie. Yeah, I'm kind of on the opposite spectrum of Carrick here, because when I saw it for the first time, I kind of liked it. And then kind of didn't like it once the overplay started really sinking in. And having been about 5 years since I've even thought about this movie, watching it for the first time in a long time, I actually ended up liking it a lot more than I did the first time.
Yeah, I will say, like, go aside, I kind of like In Summer, but I really like the opening number. That one gets the blood boiling.
Yeah, the ice song.
Yeah, it's the manly version of Whistle While You Work.
It's a really cool shanty, and it's like strange that it's about cutting ice of all things. Like, yeah, let's cut some ice. There's one lyric though that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, where they're saying like stronger than 100 men, but it like shows like just one guy still cutting the ice. It only takes one guy to cut the ice.
Although certain types of ice can be pretty strong, you just go to Finland. They built a whole ice hotel.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, that first scene confuses. It's one of my first problems with the movie is that they over-explain some things, but don't explain enough for other things. Like, for example, when it comes to Kristoff, I don't understand what he was doing there and how he was there, or like, was he being chaperoned, or and it was clear that he was being taken in by the trolls in that scene. So,
Right.
but he was just on his own. And he just happened to have a pet reindeer.
Not really sure. Personally, I've never given much thought to these kinds of backstories, and it only lasts for a few minutes at the beginning. He doesn't even come back
Halfway through.
until the massive time jump.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter that much, but
but-
it's just like an example of one of my problems
Yeah.
is that it feels like they gloss over things.
Yeah, one element of the movie I know a lot of people have problems with is the way that the parents reacted to Elsa losing control of her powers, and just the way that they handled that was absolutely the wrong way to go.
Right. Just send her to X-Men to Xavier's school. That would be
Yeah.
Good for youngsters.
yeah.
Yeah, because it's like everything that happens in the latter part of the film, in terms of Elsa freezing everything, and then when she finds out what she'd done, she isolates herself even more. Just ends up making things worse. She really needed to learn how to rein in that fear, control her emotions, and gee, if only there were two people in her life who could have taught her how to do that.
That actually makes Let It Go kind of ironic because she's just tolling it up even more.
Yeah, think about Let It Go. She's completely unbound by fear now. As far as she's concerned, she can't really go back to her kingdom. She's pretty much, exiled herself. She just doesn't know to what extent yet. But as far as she's concerned, she doesn't have to worry about hurting anyone or anything. And I think that's a big part of where Let It Go, gets its power. It's letting go of these, emotional restraints that were holding her back, and it allows her to flourish.
You're right. I guess you're kind of right, but I still find it ironic. It's a song about breaking out of isolation only to isolate even.
Yeah, I think of it as like a new, fresh start. Like she's gonna create a whole army of snowmen.
I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I really think they should have kept Elsa as a villain for this story. Because in context, the song "Let It Go" does not sound like an uplifting, real empowering song. It sounds like the origin of a villain.
Yeah, the
I
Wicked,
guess.
a similar show which this draws inspiration from, Defying Gravity, is just that, the origin of the Wicked Witch. And it's presented completely straight as this is the start of villainy.
I don't understand. I don't understand why they would change that, because all it does is hurt the story. Because now you got two different villains now. Elsa's weird ice powers as well as the Duke. But then they felt the need to throw in another villain who, for no reason other than, oh, you bet you didn't see that coming. Oh.
And I did see that coming. Hans was pretty well telegraphed, I thought.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, she's with the guy 15, 20 minutes in. Of course, this isn't going to work out.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like it was like Prince Charming from Shrek. Because since I knew how the prince acted in Shrek 2, I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to end well.
Yeah. I will say this though. The song "Love Is an Open Door," it is a BS love song, and it is also the love song that Anna and Hans deserved.
Right.
Because it's a song about, BS love, BS romance, and it turns out to be a phony romance.
Oh, so now I get it. When I watched this movie a second time, in the scene where he fell in the water and looked towards Anna and had a content smile on him, at first I thought it was just him being happy to have met her. But now I know that smile actually meant I cannot wait to steal her kingdom and possibly kill her sister. That's what it meant all along.
Yeah, I still think that smile was, genuine. It was more in the sense of, holy crap, she's a princess. This is my ticket. I don't know if he, I mean, yeah, he did mention later on that he had plans to stage a little accident for Elsa, so the ulterior motive was always there.
But let's see, yeah, definitely is one of those characters that I don't get the hype for. I do enjoy Olaf, I will say. I think he's definitely one of the saving graces of this movie.
Oh,
Yeah,
look
As
at
far,
that! I've been impaled.
as far as comic
It's
relief go.
just so
And
funny.
who?
It's fine. You actually get to like him. He doesn't get on your nerves.
Yeah, and
Hey guys, I don't know if this is gonna help, but I found a set of stairs that leads exactly to where you need to go.
I'll try to stay out of everyone's way. Oh, hello there. And who's the ugly looking horse over there? That's
That's
Sven.
Sven.
And who's the reindeer?
That's
That's
Sven.
Sven.
Oh, this will be easy to remember. Man, he's so quotable. Hey, some people are worth melting for. Maybe not like right this second. Who's melting?
Yeah. Yeah. I will say this. I think my favorite character in the movie is Anna, because
So, I love Anna to death. She
yeah,
is such a fun character.
she's like a constant ray of optimism in a situation where optimism would be really, really hard to grasp for a lot of people because she's being shut out by her sister. She has no idea why, but at the same time, she still has that kind of bubbly personality, you know? And the fact that she's been isolated for so long, it would make sense that she'd want to explore everything in her kingdom and that she would fall for the first guy that she meets. Hans was really lucky that Anna was so willing to be so open.
That's really what makes the
Anna's
character.
movie. Not a fan of Elsa, but Anna's fine. She's fine.
She's a very adorable protagonist.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I think
that self-sacrifice at the end. Look, I know. Whatever you might think about this movie, whatever you might think about Elsa, the scene where she's just breaking down in her sister's frozen state, that scene always gets to me.
What if they actually ended the movie there?
Oh, come on, man. Come
What if
on.
they actually ended it there?
That
Like,
would have been dark.
holy shit, Disney, really? Highest grossing movie and you end with killing the princess? Oh my god.
And Anna's just like, I was frozen today.
The
I
kingdom
knew
is
you'd say that.
I don't care what your argument is or what you've been through. I was literally frozen in a block of ice. So don't come to me with your first world BS problems.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is another thing where I kind of like a little bit of the supplemental material and some of the other universe for Frozen, particularly the Olaf merch.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the stuff with the protagonists, I think that is enough for me to endorse the movie. And also, not gonna be ashamed of this. Let It Go is a really good song. Mostly just in context of the movie, though. Because
Well,
outside of that context,
Right.
you know.
one other thing that does bother me about this movie is the fact that Anna has more chemistry with the villain than she does with Kristoff. Like, they spend the entire film just like constantly arguing. But according to Hollywood logic, that means that they get together at the
Yeah.
end.
Like, did they?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
They
they
get
did.
to the end of Frozen 2, I think.
At the end of Frozen,
Spoilers.
they kiss at the end of Frozen.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
fine.
that is true.
So,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, maybe they should have just kept that to like a brother-sister type relationship.
I feel it would have been a lot more fitting. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Since the whole movie got sibling love.
Honestly, I feel like here's the thing, if they kept Han not being a twist villain and like Anna tried to kiss him, it didn't work, and they had to like try and figure out something else, and like the dupe Wesselton is trying to kill Elsa, and then Elsa's act of love ends up saving Anna. I feel like that would have been a supplemental way of giving out the message, love at first sight isn't real, and then maybe Hans and Anna would have been like, yeah, let's take it a little slower from here on out. We were rushing into it. I feel like that would have probably made a bit more sense.
Yeah. I think it does. I think it does play well into, not being somewhat cautious when meeting new people. Don't just jump into it because you never know. In 2013, when social media is growing ever more, I think it's a good message to send out to kids. It really does show the danger of just jumping at the first person to, show any kind of affection, which again wouldn't have been a problem if Elsa hadn't isolated herself, which itself wouldn't have been a problem if she had been taught how to actually control her powers. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Right.
Wow, the parents are really awful. They deserve to die.
I'm just not a fan of twist villains that are completely 180 different characters when you find out that they're a villain.
Yeah.
It feels
if you ask me, Turbo was a lot better in that regard because he was never really a protagonist. He was always kind of shady.
The twist was that he was Turbo.
Someone's mentioned that he's not a twist villain; he's a villain with a twist.
I like that. Yeah. I think King Candy is because he's entertaining in his own right, but then the twist about him is not only something that you didn't necessarily see coming, but it also ties into Ralph's story and as sort of a cautionary tale of what he could have become if he went Turbo.
Right.
Frozen, it's a solid 7 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I'm with Carrick on this one.
Yeah, I'm a little kinder to this than you guys are. I can't help it. I just get sucked into it.
And that's fair. I totally get that.
Yeah, but let's see what the people thought. Okay. Frozen, 8. Sword in the Stone, 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How many of those votes were just to spite Frozen, though?
I'm not sure.
Actually have seen Sword in the Stone.
Yeah. I'm not sure. But
even though
it's closer than I thought it would be.
Same here.
Frozen may not be one of my favorite Disney movies, but I still think it's better than Sword in the Stone.
Yeah, so...
Oh, no offense, Wes.
None taken. Again, I can respect that.
All right. We covered a lot of ground with that one.
Yeah.
Well, it's Frozen, which was once the highest-grossing anime movie of all time. There was a lot to cover.
Yeah, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of these big hits or all-time classics. And speaking of all-time classics, let's move on to our next bracket. We have the 3 seed versus the 14 seed. Cinderella versus Dinosaur.
Yeah. Dinosaur is one of the movies that I watched in preparation for this.
Yeah, I'd seen the trailer. The first 5 minutes, unbelievable, gave me goosebumps. Me goosebumps when I watched the movie itself.
Yeah, and James Newton Howard's score.
It's magnificent.
Yeah, James Newton Howard never phones it in. He's done a lot of bad movies like Last Airbender, but his score is always A1.
I'll give him that. This movie it sounds amazing visually, when they actually want to put emphasis on backgrounds and visuals, it looks really good.
Yeah, and
except for parts of the meteor shower scene, some of that looked really tacky.
Yeah, and the backgrounds to this are photographed. They were filmed on the location, and they digitized the characters in. So this did the shtick of the Lion King remake 19 years prior.
Yeah.
Why is the Lion King remake not considered a part of the Disney animated canon?
Probably because there's already an original Lion King.
I don't know.
There's a remake canon now.
Yeah.
I guess you're right, but I think the use of backgrounds here absolutely breathtaking,
Yeah.
and it gives me. I know this is going to sound in context, but it gives me Amazing World of Gumball vibes with the use of photographic backgrounds and the animated characters, because it just sometimes it feels very seamless and like they actually belong there. Other
Right.
times, not so much.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
little fun fact is this was actually Image Movers Digital, which was merged with Disney shortly after this was made.
Hmm.
And it wasn't actually considered canon until fairly recently. In Europe, they have this other film, The Wild, take its place in the canon.
I remember seeing ads for The Wild.
Yeah, but since we are running this from America, we're using the American list. So Dinosaur
Yes,
remains.
I still think out of all the Disney movies, Dinosaur probably feels like the most out of place, like in terms of what the other Disney movies feel as like aesthetically.
Yeah.
Right. This is sort of like the odd one out.
Right.
That's
It's one of-
everything is one.
Yeah. It's also one of 3 Disney animated canon films released in the year 2000.
Yeah. And I think Fantasia 2000 had a limited run in 99.
Did it?
Yeah.
Well, regardless,
But anyway, I feel like this is a good tech demo, but it would have been better off if the dinosaurs didn't talk.
And fuck.
Yeah, they were going to make this a silent movie, but
Oh.
Okay, I completely misheard that.
I thought you said didn't fuck.
didn't talk. Talk.
Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
I got
Okay.
so scared.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, blame my mic.
Yeah. I'll say this about the movie story and the characters. They're competent. They're fine. They're functional. It's what you would call a movie.
I will say I like how do like the detail of one of the like wisecracking monkeys being voiced by the same voice actor for Daxter from Jack and Daxter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that's a very
Yeah, I
fitting,
caught that. It was pretty surreal.
like that's a very fitting
that-
casting choice. So I appreciate it.
Wait, was that the Love Monkey?
Yes, that one. He has the
Wow.
same voice actor as Daxter.
Oh
and
my god, that makes so much sense.
very fitting.
I recognized that when I played Jack and Daxter first time. I was like, wait a minute, I know this voice.
It's a really good voice, and I'm glad Disney realized that.
It is a good voice.
Even if like the character isn't written all that well, like I could appreciate the good voice acting.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's this whole thing about, the main character, Alator, I think his name.
Alatar,
Alator.
the iguana.
Yeah. He grows up raised by lemurs.
Hmm?
And then once the meteor hits, he's forced into the land with other dinosaurs. And I noticed there's like no real moment in this movie where he's, trying to understand, where he belongs or where he is. And it does seem like in those early scenes, he is fully aware that he is a dinosaur, or at the very least, not a lemur, and it just has no effect on him.
Yeah.
Like no identity crisis whatsoever. Now that I'm saying this out loud, that actually seems like kind of an interesting touch that they don't really dwell on it. But at the same time, I kind of wonder why they put him in this setting to begin with. Maybe just to make him feel more out of place with the dinosaurs traveling across the desert.
More isolated, and so he could survive the meteor shower.
We never get any scenes like in Ice Age 2 where, I forget what the girl mammoth's name is, where like Ellie, yeah, where she's acting like a possum because she was raised by possums. Never get any scenes like that where Aladar is acting like a lemur, but I guess that makes sense, like from an animal instinct standpoint. So I guess that is sort of a nice touch.
Yeah.
It's like, when you think about it, there is no reason that a mammoth would ever think that they're a lemur or a possum because they're clearly not.
Right.
That's what you trying to pull.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I never
not
thought
a
of
whole
it that way.
lot to talk about in terms of the story because
It's nothing surprising.
it's as pretty bare bones as it can get. No real twists and turns.
Kind
It
of like,
follows basically the plot of every dinosaur movie ever made.
Yeah.
I guess I like the old lady dinosaurs, sort of. Like
Yeah,
they're
they're
fun.
nice.
Yeah.
I like that one, like the one leader, uh, Brutar, I think it was.
The
Like,
one who turns nice.
yeah, the one who got separated after the Carnotaur attack.
Yeah.
The one who turned nice and then immediately got killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Bruton. His name's Bruton. Here we go.
Bruton. Okay. Okay, the one that sounds more menacing is the one who has a change of heart.
Yeah,
Right.
I love how when he's like, "Don't you see the weak die and the strong survive? That's how it works." And the moment he shows weakness, he dies.
Yeah. And it's more like the moment he shows weakness, he's like, "So this is how I die."
Yeah.
Because he actually does try to fight back the Carnotaurs again once they, infiltrate the cave.
Yeah, and they wanted to show off the Carnotaur because that was at the time a recent discovery. And of course, you would pick the dinosaur that looks like Satan to represent your antagonist.
It's the only logical move.
That's something. That's a little pet peeve of mine when it comes to movies like these. Like Lion King does this a little bit too, where only some of the animals can talk. Like with some of the animals just act like animals, but only the main ones can talk, and I don't get why. It kind of annoys me.
I think it might have to do with conservation of detail. You don't want to have a conversation struck up with everyone. I sort of headcanon that the other creatures in the herd could talk, they just didn't have anything to say.
Yeah, I guess it's a little just a little confusing. It's like, what is the language of these everyone, and why do lemurs speak the same language as dinosaurs? It's a nitpick, I'll admit, but still, it's just one of those things that bothers me.
Dinosaur is a decent tech demo. As a movie, it's just eh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Cinderella. I'll start off by saying I feel like this is kind of like the 1950 or Disney era version of The Little Mermaid, in that it was the first film to kind of bring Disney out of somewhat dark era. It's a Disney princess movie. It has a plethora of bad takes surrounding it, and most of all, it's really freaking good.
Yeah, and Disney basically built their empire on this movie. Snow White might have been the big hit, but Cinderella established the brand.
What is it with all these movies that make a crap ton of money, like save their companies, and meanwhile you've got a whole bunch of people constantly making awful takes that take in no context into account when it comes to these films and when they are released. Like,
yeah, that's right. I was gonna say, for those, just like The Little Mermaid, which has a ton of detractors, a lot of the detractors for Cinderella, they're just wrong.
Yeah. She's just waiting for her Prince Charming. Like, dude, she didn't even care about her Prince Charming until the last third.
She was just trying to get away from an abusive household.
Right. Like, heck,
watching the same movie.
she didn't even want to, marry the prince at first. She didn't even realize that was the prince, or maybe she did. I don't know. Maybe she was just using that as an excuse to get away. Point is, all she really wanted was just one night of happiness where she can get away from Tremaine's wrath and just enjoy herself. Live out a fantasy just for one night. And when it all ends, she's content. She's okay with that. She doesn't just sit around wondering if her Prince Charming will ever find her. She just keeps that one glass slipper, just as like a keepsake of that one moment.
When you think about it in the grand scheme of things, it's probably one of the most heartbreaking, just emotionally driven motivations.
Right, I think with the stepsister, that's always pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of Triton destroying Ariel's treasure trove. Something they've worked so hard for, and it's all just taken away by a spiteful parent.
It's just like Quasimodo from Hunchback. Like, all they want is just one day to feel normal or content with anything. That's all they want, and it's so just heartbreaking to watch. Like, oh, like they deserve a whole life.
Like, they deserve everything. They're so pure. They don't deserve this shit.
Right.
No.
We also say of the original three princesses as characters, Cinderella's probably my favorite. She's nice, she's dependable, she's a hard worker, she has a regimen, she's pretty fleshed out.
Right. She has a very strong support system with the mice and the birds and Bruno.
I was surprised at how much of the movie was about the mice when I rewatched it recently.
Yeah, same. I mean, they have they make up a good 30% of the movie, maybe even more.
Yeah, but they're great characters, though, so it's nice to see how she has friends and she's not completely alone.
Right. Oh my god, now I'm sad again. Her best friend are rodents.
Yeah, but I did see a funny review that said Tom and Jerry and Cinderella.
Oh, wow.
But they haven't made... I'm honestly surprised they haven't made that crossover yet, seeing as how fitting that would be.
Maybe it's too obvious.
I guess so. And, I guess Tom isn't as evil as a cat named Lucifer.
I think again, what separates that being jarring or just these mice segments being out of place is that they are integral to the plot as Cinderella's friends, and we get to see them pitch in and try to make the dress, which is pretty nice scene.
Right, and actively try to get the key from Lady Tremaine when she locks Cinderella in her room.
Oh yeah, that's suspense right there.
Yeah.
I will never understand why people are so hard on the mice scenes and are like, it doesn't focus on the main character, therefore it's stupid. Come on, guys! Like, movies have side characters all the time. Like, so many of those Disney movies, especially the older ones, like, what makes them so charming is their ensemble casts. Like, it's not just about the title character.
Right.
Yeah.
If anything, the side characters are just as, if not even more interesting and fun as, the main characters. And I think that's really
it's a very symbiotic relationship.
They
play off of each other very well. They work individually. And this basically applies to the entirety of the cast with the exception of the prince. Again, another parallel to The Little Mermaid, where the prince is the least interesting character. But the king, though, that guy is hilarious.
Yeah, he's just trying to ship his son off.
He's like, I want grandkids, damn it!
Yeah, his assistant is like, but sire, this shoe could fit on any number of girls. And the king's like, that's his problem.
Pointing out a plot hole. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, I appreciated that.
I always kind of have that head canon that the fairy godmother set it up.
Yeah.
That does make sense, but I do appreciate whenever they make a joke about plot holes, like, fuck it.
Yeah. I like how the king's assistant is just saying, pointing out the absurdity of, this random girl walking in, catches the prince's eye, they meet each other, they dance, they live happily ever after. All that's happening at the same time. This only happens in fairy tales.
Yeah, for a 50s Disney movie. This is pretty self-aware.
Yeah, Disney's been doing the whole meta thing since 1950.
Here's the thing about it with this movie. I think what separates the meta aspect of this film from like more contemporary movies such as like Frozen or Ralph Breaks the Internet, it doesn't feel like it's criticizing or being like mean-spirited towards the tropes. It feels like it's having fun with it while at the same time being sincere about it too, and I appreciate that. Because it feels a lot more relatable when you're able to look at the absurdity of something, but at the same time, it's still a fairy tale film, and they roll with it.
It's self-awareness without the self-deprecation, and it's a very nice touch.
With itself.
Yeah.
As much as I like meta humor, I feel like too many movies and shows these days are being far too cynical to be enjoyable.
I did notice this movie used a Goofy holler.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah, it's the scene. It's the scene where the king realizes that the girl got away, but then immediately finds out that they still have the glass slipper to use to find her. And at this point, they're like hanging from a chandelier above the king's bed, and when they fall down, you hear that holler. It completely threw me off guard, and I had to rewatch it again.
I'm surprised the Goofy scream hasn't become like the Wilhelm scream of Disney movies. Like they haven't found a way to insert it into every movie.
And it won't be the last time you hear it in this marathon.
I'm looking forward to it. I love that scream.
It's so hard to replicate.
Yeah, the one from the ski tutorial was the best one. Yeah,
it's kind of like going back and watching old Tom and Jerry shorts and seeing all those classic William Hanna screams and how they originated. It's just like very, oh wow, this is the birth of memes.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Okay. All right. So one last thing I want to touch on before we get to the scoring. I recently heard an audio clip of Bippity Boppity Boo, except Bippity Boppity Boo was replaced with Poopity Scoop. Kanye song.
Poopity Scoop. Poopity Scoop.
That fits too well.
God. Still makes me laugh every time I hear it. It's unbelievably funny.
I will say though, in defense of the prince, I haven't seen the movie, but I know that apparently they make him a lot more interesting in the sequel.
Yeah, in the third one specifically.
You
will not take another step down these stairs. Okay, and jumps out the window.
Really? That's the one clip everybody shares.
Yeah. The third movie, Twist in Time's actually pretty good because it's also self-aware without being too detrimental.
Yeah, I've heard that's like considered one of the better Disney sequels.
Yeah.
They have a lot of really good voice act. I'm looking at the BTVA page for this, and they got a lot of really good voice actors. Like they got Rob Paulson as the voice of Jacques and the Grand Duke, and Rusty Taylor as Fairy Godmother, Jennifer Hale as Cinderella. This is a good cast.
Wow. That's pretty cool. I might actually have to check that one out once this marathon's over.
I also like how in Ralph Breaks the Internet they actually brought Jennifer Hale back to voice Cinderella. Like that was a nice touch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's been Cinderella since House of Mouse.
Hey, good on you, Disney. Like that's a nice touch. I like that.
Yep.
All
Disney
right.
keeps being consistent for the most part.
All right, so let's get on to the scoring. Let's get on to the scoring now. Once again,
the main voice actor for Mickey Mouse is though right now.
Yeah.
All right. So once again, we've covered tons of ground here. So let's get on to the scoring. All right, Cinderella got 11 votes, and Dinosaur got none.
Oh wow, another blowout.
Yeah.
And again, I throw the term recency bias around a lot because I think people might be more intimately familiar with the movies from the Renaissance on. and might have to rewatch some of the older ones, but Cinderella, I feel like, is one that has had that sort of generational appeal to keep it going.
That's exactly what I thought.
There's like thousands of different adaptations. Like the Cinderella stories, they don't stop. Like there's another one coming out next year. Like why are there so many Cinderella movies?
And there are movies called like Another Cinderella Story or Yet Another Cinderella Story. Oh God, when will these Cinderella stories stop? That should be a movie. That should be a parody movie. Like, oh my God, when will the Cinderella movies stop?
Then DJ Khaled makes a cameo and he's like, another one.
Oh God.
Tell me now.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to our final matchup for this week. We have the 7 seed, Winnie the Pooh 2011, versus the 10 seed, The Fox and the Hound.
Yeah, the most intriguing matchup this week.
Yes, this is definitely a good one. Not sure how I feel, though. Which one do you guys want to start with first?
Let's start with Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
This is the other one that I've watched very recently. Winnie the Pooh is probably one of the more nostalgic characters for me because the film from the 70s is very important for my childhood. Like I've watched it countless times with my parents. And
Same. I really grew up with the whole Pooh franchise. There was the New Adventures, there was Book of Pooh, there was that brief run of movies in the 2000s. A lot of the Disney sequels are forced or cashed in on a concept. Pooh is not. It's sort of like its own mini franchise.
Right.
Somehow Winnie the Pooh has always kept his integrity, even somewhat, like, debatably, I'll admit. Even debatably with his live-action remake.
Yeah. I've heard that live action movie was actually pretty good.
Yeah,
as far as they go, but I haven't seen it, but it looks all right.
I saw the trailer for it when I went to see Incredibles 2 in theaters. I legitimately started tearing up just because of the pure rush of nostalgia and just all the memories associated with Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah. It still does one of those annoying things where they pick and choose which voice actors they want to bring back. Like, for example, they got Jim Cummings as Winnie the Pooh, but at first they had recast somebody as Tigger.
Really?
But apparently, test audiences hated the Tigger voice so much that they asked Jim Cummings to overdub the lines.
Oh, really?
It's like you guys had Jim Cummings in the studio, so what were you thinking?
You could have done it at literally any time.
Oh, well, it's just like with Frank Welker and Scoob, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I think this might be the shortest non-package film. I don't even think it clocks in at an hour.
Let's see that.
Only a little bit over 60 minutes, and that's including the end credits.
Wow.
Right.
I'll include the end credits since like it had some animated parts in it.
Oh yeah.
63. It's just 1 minute behind Dumbo.
Yikes.
I mean, it's 1 minute shorter than Dumbo. Yeah. So yes, it is the shortest non-package film.
Funnily enough, Dumbo was this week's buy film.
What a coinkadink.
Yeah, but as far as this movie goes, it's pretty cute. It features a lot of fun words play. Yeah. I cannot not make crack up every time.
That's easily my favorite scene. I love it when Owl flies out of the hole to inspire Piglet to head into the woods, and then he just jumps back in, and then Rabbit's
could have flown anyone out.
Then Rabbit's just like, Owl, I can't believe how wonderful that speech was.
Yeah.
And I was like, fly us out.
And then, oh my god, dude. I had no idea that this movie had songs. Like, it was a full musical. The Baxen musical number is so fucking good. I love it.
It's written by the same people who did Frozen, actually.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
And another thing, Kristen Anderson Lopez, one of the songwriters for Frozen, did the voice for Kanga.
Cool.
Neat.
Yeah, I
Um,
did
yeah, lot of fun
back
songs here.
such creative
Everything is
visuals.
honey. That was a nice little song.
Everyone is honey, so I guess I'll eat me.
Oh my.
Uh, it's really good hearing all these one. It's so rare seeing a technically theatrical movie, even though short length, but whatever. It's so refreshing seeing all of these talented and what just absolutely wonderful voice actors that I am in love with. Just be able to go all out and have a chance to shine. I mean, you've got Jim Cummings, you've got Tom Kenny, you got Bud Lucky. You even have freaking Craig Ferguson as Owl, and he does a surprisingly good job there too. Because Craig Ferguson is a wonderful character actor. You guys might know him as like one of the Vikings in How to Train Your Dragon. I forget what his name is.
Yeah, he had a thing for being in a lot of good animated films around the turn of the decade.
Oh yeah.
I gotta make sure I get this name correct. Hang on. Gobber, yeah,
Gobber, yeah, the one with the prosthetics.
One of my easily one of the best characters in that franchise.
Yeah, and he did pull off a pretty good owl voice. And they didn't get and Bud Lucky was a pretty good substitute for Eeyore. R.I.P.
Oh yeah. Isn't it? I feel like it's normally Peter Cullen who voices
It is
Eeyore.
normally Peter Cullen ever since Day for Eeyore.
Yeah, but, Bud Lucky was really good in this, and I miss that man. I miss him. But, and I was very surprised that I actually did not know that Tom Kenny was in this movie going in.
Yeah, he's
Rabbit.
almost like the original.
When I heard Rabbit speak, I was like, "Oh my god, is that Tom Kenny?" It was such a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, he was great. All the cast was great. Not much to say in terms of story. There's not really a
And
whole
the narrator,
lot there.
John Cleese.
I'm clean. Yes, love him.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to describe this movie in one word is quaint. Quaint movie that's here 1 minute and gone the next.
Yeah.
When it is, it's very enjoyable. It's very enjoyable.
Right.
Yeah.
And because it's short, it's something that you could pop on at any time.
Exactly.
Right, but screw Disney for releasing this the same day as the last Harry Potter.
So angry about that.
Yeah.
Like they wanted this to bomb.
Yeah. I mean, the Pooh franchise is still alive, so maybe it wasn't a total bust, but I do think more people should see this.
Wasn't like a,
If only for the whole scene.
Yeah.
at least it wasn't a total failure.
Yeah.
Like it did make its money back at least.
Right.
But, my only complaint is that it does leave me wanting more because it feels kind of like a collection of episodes from a Winnie the Pooh TV show most of the time. Like maybe if you almost like a 3-parter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. Now I'm thinking of new adventures. A few years ago, I watched an episode on YouTube just on a whim, and I forgot just how charming and even funny that show was. Like, Pooh, I've been thinking. Well, that's a very good habit, Piglet.
Yeah, Pooh can be savage sometimes.
Even if it seems like he's not being intentional, and that's why I love that character so much.
Yeah. And oh bother is basically just oh fuck. Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad I saw this one. All right,
Yeah.
Fox and the Hound.
Yeah, this one's one of Disney's heavier movies. Very surprised.
I got to the scene. I got to the scene where the widow has to let Todd go, and I was just crushed.
Did you have tissues on hand?
I should have.
Yeah, but they actually toned this a bit down from its source material, the book, which could get pretty brutal and violent. But just the idea of growing apart from people when you get older, about having to be friends with someone that others don't approve of, and just the harsh realities of living in nature. That's all pretty here, and it's one of Disney's most down movies.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that one scene did get me, although to be fair, I had a couple beers beforehand, so I was pretty emotionally vulnerable. Don't worry, I can handle my alcohol.
From the Hound is a strange one for me.
How so?
I did get emotional at that scene, of course. Like, wouldn't. But I really feel like Todd and Copper don't spend enough time like hanging out for their separation to leave much of an impact on me. I feel like that's something that I know that Disney has a bit of a habit of rushing those kinds of relationships a little bit. For example, with The Little Mermaid, they spend like a couple days together and fall in love. With Cinderella, like they have one dance together and they fall in love.
Yeah.
But like those are like kind of fairy tale tropes. It's like those kind of come with it, and you expect that, and you take it. You understand why it's there. Like it makes sense in context. But this kind of story, it just I feel like it would have benefited a little bit more if they spent more than one day hanging out as friends.
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of feel that, but I kind of excuse it just because they're young and impressionable, and with Todd especially, like probably his earliest memory is his mother getting killed by a hunter.
Yeah, if he can even remember that far back. Yeah. I mean, he was so very, very tragic.
Yeah, so I think that's why the parts, where they do end up against each other don't hit me as hard as the scene where he leaves the widow, because he's grown up his whole life with that woman. That is his rock, his foundation, and he has to leave. He doesn't even know it until they're in the woods. And it's like, oh my god, this poor little puffer just wants his mama, but he can't. It's not safe there.
Hearing her internal monologue, like reminiscing over all the good times they had, like that was the part that got me going, like, oh no! Ugh. Like even thinking about it now, it's starting to make me well up a little. I'm glad this isn't big cam.
I was surprised in the first altercation with their grown-up selves that the dog Chief did not die from that fall from the train tracks.
I thought he died. Like I thought
he did too. And then it's like, what the hell? He's alive?
No one could ever survive that.
If he was dead, I feel like his like the betrayal or separation between Todd and Copper would have had a little bit more impact. But then you see him alive and like cracking jokes in the next scene, and you're like, what? This is not what I thought was being sold to me at all.
Yeah. I did notice in his first night in the forest, he lives with a porcupine who's voiced by the original voice actor for Piglet.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was very...
And I saw this like right after I'd seen Winnie the Pooh, so that was fresh in my mind.
Yeah, you ever seen in 12 Angry Men? It was kind of surreal seeing him there.
He was in that too?
Yeah.
Did he do that same voice?
Yes.
Oh wow.
I think that's just his normal voice.
That's funny. I'll never be able to unhear Piglet.
Paul Winchell is also in this movie too.
Oh yeah, who does he voice?
The original voice actor for Tigger.
I know, but in Fox and the Hound.
He voiced the woodpecker.
Boomer.
Yeah, Boomer.
Yeah.
Fitting name for a woodpecker because they tap on the
Do
bark.
you think whenever saying he's saying something to his friends, and when they have to acknowledge him, do you think they say, "Okay, Boomer"?
They did say that.
That's a line in the film.
Yeah. This may be the first recorded instance of the phrase "Okay, Boomer."
I forgot about that.
Disney was ahead of its time.
Uh, I think we're talking about how the mice in Cinderella, even though they're not the main characters, their scenes don't detract from the story.
Yeah.
I feel like the scenes with Boomer and Dinky feel a little out of place. Not gonna lie.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. I can kind of respect comic relief, but maybe if they were a little shorter.
I'm not really sure what narrative purpose they serve or like thematic purpose other than it's Tigger as a woodpecker.
I did notice this is the third movie this week to feature a talking owl.
And there will be more still because Bambi has one. There's another Winnie the Pooh movie with one.
That is true.
I really like Big Mama. I think she's a really good character in this that not a lot of people talk about. And
yeah, she's nice.
Got a good singing voice too. How much else I can think about, other than the scene where he's trying to impress the girl fox, and like he gets flustered because he fails at getting the fish, and like he's angry that she's laughing at him. His version of an insult is, "Oh, what do you know, female?" So biting.
Dear. Oh dear.
It's a female.
God, Texas Fox.
Come on, Todd. This is a kids' movie.
I'm imagining the scene where they meet and Jimi Hendrix's Foxy Lady plays in the background. Foxy.
Even when characters are animals, they still always have that default Disney hero like heroine face with like the big eyes and the dainty smile. They all have that same face.
Even Elastigirl has it, and she's crazy.
I like consistency.
Yeah, I don't think there's much else to cover with this movie. Mostly good scenes. That one heartbreaking scene that everyone remembers.
I like with Up. It's a mostly good movie, but people only talk about that one scene.
Yeah. It was kind of hard for me to choose between this and Winnie the Pooh, honestly.
I feel like this is one where the two are close enough and the winner isn't obvious enough that we can talk about who we picked and why before saying the results.
Yeah. I think I went with... I do remember going with Fox and the Hound, just because it kind of did hit harder, and in terms of story, it felt a little bit more structured. I understand that, that's kind of the charm of Winnie the Pooh, but it was a close call, like by a hair.
Yeah, I felt much the same way, but I also went with Fox just because it hits so hard, and when it is good, it's really good.
It looks like I will once again have to be the dissenting opinion. While it was a very close battle for me, I ended up going with Winnie the Pooh because those characters are so charming to me and they mean so much to me. Like they hold a special place in my heart, and it's one of those things where it's like, it feels so good to see them back in action.
That's fair. Totally.
Yeah,
fair.
and there will be another Pooh movie, so we might get another chance.
And I don't want another Christopher Robin movie. I want a straightforward Winnie the Pooh movie. That's what I want.
All right. So,
get Jim Cummings back as Tigger, for God's sake. Don't get somebody else as Tigger.
Okay. All right. So let's get into this voting.
I'm very curious about this one.
All right. Winnie the Pooh got 4 votes. Fox and the Hound got 6.
Damn, that's really
Yeah,
close.
bit of a lower turnout around here. I guess there was because there wasn't like an all-time classic in there. But
Right.
yeah, very very close split here.
And also the second double-digit seed to win.
know what?
Hooray!
I'm fine with. You know what? I'm fine with that. I'll accept that L.
Yeah. So there we go. That does it for this week's voting, and we are now done with the first round for Class B.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do a quick recap of what the round two matchups are going to be in this class. It'll be a while before we get there, but it'll be nice to get a good idea beforehand. All right, so the first matchup is going to be the 1 seed Fantasia against the 8 seed The Princess and the Frog.
I might need to rewatch Fantasia, or at least snippets of it.
Yeah. You can watch that in fragments. That's the beauty of it.
There's an intermission scene, actually, so you could just pause right there.
That's true.
There you go.
All right. Then we've got the 12 seed Treasure Planet against the 4 seed 101 Dalmatians. I'm predicting another upset there.
Guys, that one's going to be really hard for me. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, yeah. I remember you gushing over 101 Dalmatians last week.
Yeah,
I really like both of those movies. It's going to be hard to choose.
Yeah, well, the further we go, the more competitive they get, because there'll be higher seeds against higher seeds.
Yeah,
Exactly.
kind of getting the obvious losers out of the way with this first round. And speaking of interesting matchups, the next round 2 for Class B, it's gonna be Frozen versus Cinderella.
That's a very fitting matchup.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost as fitting as Mulan versus Snow White in Class A.
I didn't even know about that one.
Yeah,
'cause
Mulan.
I wasn't here. I wasn't here for that one.
Yeah, Mulan's going up against Snow White. Original Disney princess versus epitome of badass Disney princess.
Yeah.
That's probably gonna be the most interesting one so far.
Yep. But
And then we've got Fox and the Hound versus Dumbo.
I've never seen Dumbo. I've only seen the pink elephant scene. That's the only thing I've ever seen from that movie.
you've seen the only part of the movie you've seen is the one that doesn't even make sense in context.
Like, here's the context. They're drunk off their ass.
There you go.
That's all you need to know.
Maybe I've seen like a snippet of the the lullaby scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That scene's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is.
My mom, I've offered, whenever we watch Disney movies as a family, sometimes I'll be like, what about Dumbo? And my mom will be like, no, I am never watching that movie ever again. Like, keep it far away from me as possible. It's like, wow. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Wow.
It's the remake.
Yeah, I understand why my mom would not want to watch that ever again.
Yeah, I actually forgot that they remade this.
Yeah,
it's Danny DeVito was in it. That's all you need to know.
Right.
Oh, now I have to watch it.
Yeah, but as for Class C, what are the matchups for next week?
All right, the Class C matchups for Week 5. All right, the first matchup, we have the 1 seed Pinocchio gets an automatic bye.
That makes sense.
Kind of surprised that this of all movies got a 1 seed.
Yeah,
I mean it's the second movie, so I guess it's a lot of critics are really into it, I guess.
Yeah, it's also kind of grimdark. Critics kind of love the grimdark.
I look forward to when we finally talk about that movie because I have many different opinions on it.
Yeah, it's a fun fact. It got a 99 on Metacritic.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're not using Rotten Tomatoes, but it holds 100 on that.
course it does.
Rotten Tomatoes doesn't count.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes was a little too limiting for this tournament.
Metacritic is better because it's a weighted average.
Right. And
That's how we
I
know.
think IMDb works the same way.
That's how I know
Yeah.
what the best video games are.
Yeah, IMDb has an algorithm, so
Yes. All right. I think Rotten Tomatoes has that, but you kind of have to look deeper into it. It's not as prominent.
Trying to go
Right.
deep
It's just
down the
an
rabbit
aggregate.
hole.
Yeah,
yep.
just gotta
But anyway,
dig a
8-9.
just gotta dig a little deeper. All right.
8-9.
Eight.
Deeper.
All right. All right. 8 seed versus 9 seed. The Rescuers versus Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Oh
Oh
boy.
my god. Okay, I haven't seen The Rescuers in a
The
long time.
disappointing sequel versus the somewhat forgotten first movie.
So I will be very shocked if I don't think The Rescuers is better. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna say that.
like I said in week 2, the difference between the first Rescuers and the sequel is night and
Yeah.
day. So watching this one after the sequel is going to be pretty interesting.
I have heard things about Ralph Breaks the Internet. I'm waiting to see if those things are true, but that's going to be a ride.
I forget Cinderella and Frozen. Rescuers versus Ralph Breaks the Internet is actually probably the most fitting thematically matchup we've had so far. Like the worst halves of like diametric film franchises.
All right. So, anyway, 5 seed versus the 12 seed. We've got the Three Caballeros versus Fantasia 2000.
Three Caballeros, the only package, the highest seeded package film, and the only one other than Ichabod and Mr. Toad to draw the high seed.
That's true.
The surprisingly high Metascore got it up this high.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think Saludos Amigos was the lowest seed. It was 14 in Class A.
Right.
Fantasia. Fantasia. Wow, I don't know why I called it Fantasia. Fantasia. I haven't seen that one, but I know that people are split on it. Specifically because like one half of it is good, the other half is garbage.
It's a mixed bag. It has 8 shorts like the first, and they're all over the place in terms of quality.
Yeah, I have seen the Rhapsody in Blue segment. I've mentioned this before. It is incredible. I might just vote for it on principle based on that. But
and they use the best arrangement of it. I think they have the James Levine version set to that. I think that arrangement they use really brings out the jazz.
Yeah. I think they do cut out part of it though. I think there's a pretty lengthy piano solo before the soft part that I think gets cut out from Fantasia 2000, but I mean that piano solo extends it to like 18 minutes, so I can see why they might have used this abridged version. Still sounds amazing though. I love it. All right. And 4 seed versus the 13 seed. We have The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh versus Make Mine Music.
Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are.
There's absolutely no way I can be a fair judge on this one. The first Winnie the Pooh movie it ranks up there with like Toy Story and now pretty much only Toy Story as like a childhood defining movie.
Same.
It might just win the entire thing purely off of that alone.
I wouldn't be surprised if it makes it pretty far. I definitely expect it to beat Mine Music, and probably the winner.
Probably be unanimous.
Yeah, probably beat the winner of Fantasia 2000 and Three Caballeros.
Yeah, Sweet 16 wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to go up against probably Pinocchio, because I don't see it beating the winner of Rescuer. I don't see it losing to the winner of Rescuers versus Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Right.
So yeah,
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see this next round.
yeah.
It feels like we're starting to get towards admittedly the lower end of the Disney movies, but I think that's what makes it's probably going to make the discussion all the more interesting.
True. Well, I mean, we've still got that mix of high and low seeds. I mean, we haven't even touched upon some of the Renaissance movie or some of the other classics.
Yeah, exactly.
Also coming up through Class C is gonna be your first 15 seed.
That's
Chicken
true.
Little versus Aladdin. It's going
Yeah.
to be
Gee, I wonder who's gonna win.
yeah.
Oh boy.
Not all of them can be winners, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Speaking of Aladdin, one thing I forgot to say about Winnie the Pooh, you guys know that Eric Goldberg is a very famous animator and one of the guys that he was the character designer for Genie from Aladdin. I was wondering why I liked Rabbit so much in Winnie the Pooh. Eric Goldberg was the main animator for him.
Huh.
Yeah, in the new Winnie the Pooh movie. So
How about
that would
that?
explain how he was all his like wacky hand motions, like during the scene where he was trying to give hand signals, and Winnie and Piglet just waved at him.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, just a quick aside.
Yeah, these are aside from Winnie the Pooh, not a whole lot of heavy hitters. I think that's going to make for some very interesting results.
Yeah, I definitely have a little bit of preemptive watching to do for this one, and it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've only seen the Winnie the Pooh one all the way through. I'm definitely going to watch it again though because I love it so much.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch that too. I also only saw Make My Music as shorts individually, not the whole package.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm not missing much. The best one though is Willie the Whale.
That's another one of those Disney moments where it's like, come on, why do you got it? That's not fair. Come on, Disney.
Yeah.
I know nothing about Make Mine Music other than that Mike tells me it is a worse version of Fantasia.
It kind of is, but it has its moments.
Yeah.
It has one short in there. It's like a baseball short that feels pretty Looney Tunes-esque.
Yeah. Is it Casey at the Bat?
Yep.
Yes.
I've seen that one.
Yeah. There was it was very entertaining from a comedy standpoint, and I also like Peter the Wolf because it was narrated by Sterling Holloway.
Yeah, the wolf used to scare the bejeebus out of me.
And I like how each of the characters were represented by instruments. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
I have seen that. I have seen that one too in a music class I took in 6th grade.
We're definitely getting ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah. Yeah, we might want to save this for when we actually watch them. But
yeah, we'll discuss each short individually.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like we have a very glamorous week ahead of us, but hopefully it'll lead to some interesting discussions.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. All right. I think that just about wraps up this session. We've gone nearly an hour and a half. So yeah. Frozen and Cinderella definitely took up a lot of our time, but I mean, so did everything else. This was just a lot more interesting week than I was anticipating.
Right.
Oh my god, Frozen and Cinderella are fighting each other. Jesus Christ. That's going to take like 2 hours.
That's going to be massive. Hopefully we can get more people involved in that, but not so much that it overloads the server.
So we can get like different opinions in.
Yeah. All right. Well, that does it for this week. Thank you for listening in, and I will see you next time. Take care.
Take care.
We'll be back soon.
Thanks.
We'll be back soon?